Rocket Lab stock. Is it still worth buying in 2026?
We'll answer this question completely in this video step by step, so watch the video till the end.
1. What if Rocket Lab becomes the next space giant? What if I told you that one company could become one of the biggest winners of the new space economy?
Not because it is already the largest, but because it is still small enough to grow much faster than the industry leaders.
Most investors only think about one name when they hear space investing: SpaceX. But there is one problem. SpaceX is now publicly traded. But many investors believe Rocket Lab could still offer greater long-term growth potential because it is much smaller and earlier in its journey.
That leaves investors searching for the next best opportunity.
And one company continues appearing on that list: Rocket Lab. Some investors believe Rocket Lab could become the next great aerospace company.
Others believe it is still too small, too risky,
and years away from consistent profits. So, who's right? And more importantly, is Rocket Lab stock still worth buying in 2026?
Stay until the end, because one part of Rocket Lab's business could eventually become much more valuable than launching rockets.
Most investors focus only on launches. Very few pay attention to what the company is quietly building behind the scenes. And that hidden business could completely change how Wall Street values Rocket Lab over the next decade. 2. Why Rocket Lab is different. Whenever people hear the word space,
most immediately think about astronauts, moon missions, or giant rockets. But today's space economy is much bigger than that. Thousands of satellites are being launched every year.
Governments need them. Businesses depend on them.
Military organizations rely on them. Even your phone, your car, your GPS, and your internet connection may depend on satellites orbiting above Earth. Someone has to build those satellites. Someone has to launch them. Someone has to operate the technology that keeps them working. That is exactly where Rocket Lab comes in. The company designs rockets, builds satellites, manufactures critical space components,
and provides complete space solutions for commercial customers and government agencies.
That makes Rocket Lab very different from many traditional aerospace companies. It is not trying to win one big contract every few years.
It is building an entire space business, from manufacturing, to launching, to operating in space. That strategy has attracted enormous attention from long-term investors.
But here's something many people still don't realize. Rocket Lab is no longer just a rocket launch company. It wants to become something much bigger. 3. More than just rockets. Imagine buying a smartphone. Now imagine the company only sold the phone. Nothing else. No software. No services. No accessories. Its business would be much smaller. Now think about companies that build entire ecosystems. They earn money from multiple sources. That creates stronger and more stable businesses. Rocket Lab is following a similar strategy. Yes, it launches rockets, but that is only one part of the story.
The company also builds satellite systems, spacecraft components,
solar panels, flight software, communication systems,
mission management services, and advanced engineering solutions.
Every new product creates another possible source of revenue. That matters, because depending only on rocket launches would make the business much less predictable.
Management understands this. That is why Rocket Lab continues expanding into nearly every part of the space industry. This strategy could become one of the biggest drivers of future growth.
But there is another opportunity. And it may be even bigger than everything we've discussed so far. In the next part, we'll look at the government contracts, defense spending, and the giant Neutron rocket that many investors believe could transform Rocket Lab's future forever.
4. The government opportunity. When most people think about Rocket Lab,
they picture commercial satellite launches. But governments have become some of the company's most important customers. Think about how many countries now depend on space technology.
National security, weather forecasting, navigation,
communications, disaster monitoring, intelligence.
All of these rely on satellites. Governments need reliable companies that can build, launch, and support these missions. Rocket Lab has already worked with major government agencies, including defense organizations and space programs.
Winning government contracts can be extremely valuable.
These contracts are often worth millions of dollars. Some last for years. They also help build credibility. Once a company proves it can successfully complete important missions,
Winning future contracts often becomes easier. That creates a cycle of growth. More successful missions, more customer trust, more business opportunities. And government spending on space continues increasing around the world. If this trend continues, Rocket Lab could benefit for many years.
But government contracts are only one piece of the puzzle. The company's biggest project may have an even greater impact. 5. Meet Neutron. Every Rocket Lab investor should know one name.
Neutron. Today, Rocket Lab's Electron rocket focuses mainly on launching smaller satellites. It has built a strong reputation for reliability.
But the market is changing. Customers increasingly want larger payloads,
Bigger satellites, and more ambitious missions. That is exactly why Rocket Lab is developing Neutron. A much larger reusable rocket. If Neutron performs successfully, it could allow Rocket Lab to compete for a much wider range of missions.
commercial launches, government contracts, national security missions,
Scientific research, and even future human spaceflight support. This could significantly expand the company's addressable market. Many investors believe Neutron could become one of the most important milestones in Rocket Lab's history. But building a rocket is not easy. It requires years of engineering, testing, manufacturing, and enormous amounts of capital. Success could unlock tremendous growth. Failure could delay the company's progress.
That is why Wall Street watches every Neutron update so closely. But rockets alone do not create great businesses. There is another area where Rocket Lab is quietly becoming a major player. And many investors are still overlooking it. 6. The space systems business. Ask most investors where Rocket Lab earns its money.
Many will answer, rocket launches. That answer is becoming less accurate every year. The company has spent years expanding into what it calls space systems.
This includes building satellite components, reaction wheels,
Solar panels, star trackers, flight software, spacecraft design,
and complete satellite solutions. In other words, Rocket Lab is helping customers build the hardware that actually operates in space. That is a much larger opportunity than many people realize. Not every company needs to launch rockets, but many companies need satellite technology. Governments need it. Research organizations need it.
Commercial businesses need it, and the global demand continues growing.
This creates multiple sources of revenue instead of relying on launches alone. That makes the business more diversified, and diversification is something long-term investors like to see.
But there is another reason investors are paying closer attention to Rocket Lab.
The entire space economy is expected to become much larger over the coming decades. And that could create opportunities far beyond today's market.
We'll explore that next. 7. The space economy is just getting started.
Think back to the early days of the internet. Very few people imagined how much it would eventually change the world.
Today, some investors believe the space economy could follow a similar path.
Satellites are becoming smaller, cheaper, and more powerful.
Companies are launching satellite networks to improve internet access. Farmers use satellite data to monitor crops. Shipping companies track cargo across oceans. Scientists monitor climate change from space. Governments use satellites for national security. And artificial intelligence is creating even greater demand for satellite data.
Every year, more businesses are finding new ways to use space technology.
That could mean more demand for launches, more satellites, more spacecraft components, and more engineering services. Rocket Lab operates in nearly all of these areas.
If the global space economy continues expanding over the next decade, Rocket Lab could grow alongside it. That is one reason many long-term investors remain excited.
But excitement alone does not create shareholder value. The company still needs to turn growth into stronger financial results.
8. How Rocket Lab actually makes money. Now let's answer an important question.
How does Rocket Lab actually make money? Many people think the answer is simple. It launches rockets. It gets paid. That is true. But today's business is much larger than that. The first source of revenue comes from launch services. Every successful mission generates income from commercial customers, government agencies, and defense organizations. But launch revenue is only one piece of the business.
Rocket Lab also earns money by designing and manufacturing satellite components,
Building complete spacecraft, providing engineering solutions,
and supporting customer missions from start to finish.
Some customers never buy a rocket launch. They simply purchase technology that Rocket Lab builds. This creates multiple revenue streams and reduces dependence on any single business segment. Management has intentionally built the company this way. Because rocket launches can vary from quarter to quarter, a diversified business can become more stable over time. That is something investors usually reward. But before investors become too optimistic, there is one challenge every aerospace company must overcome. And it is far bigger than competition alone. 9. The biggest risks investors must understand.
Building rockets is one of the most difficult businesses in the world.
Every launch carries risk. One technical problem can delay missions,
Increase costs, or damage customer confidence. Developing new rockets requires billions of dollars across the industry.
Research takes time. Testing takes time. Manufacturing takes time.
There are no shortcuts. Rocket Lab also faces competition from much larger companies with greater financial resources.
Some competitors have deeper pockets, larger manufacturing capacity, and long-established government relationships. The company must continue innovating to stay ahead. Another challenge is profitability. Many growth companies invest heavily before generating consistent profits. Rocket Lab has chosen to invest aggressively in future expansion.
That could create enormous opportunities, but it also requires patience from investors. Not every shareholder is willing to wait several years. And that creates volatility. Stock prices can move sharply, even when the long-term story remains unchanged. So, how should investors think about all these opportunities and risks together?
That's exactly what we'll answer next. We'll examine the bull case,
The bear case, and whether Rocket Lab stock truly deserves a place in a long-term investment portfolio.
10. The bull case for Rocket Lab. Let's begin with the optimistic view.
Why do so many investors believe Rocket Lab could become one of the biggest aerospace companies of the next decade? First, the space economy continues expanding every year.
More satellites are launched. More governments increase space spending.
More businesses rely on satellite technology. Rocket Lab operates at the center of this growing industry.
Second, the company is becoming much more diversified.
It is no longer just a launch provider. It now earns revenue from spacecraft, satellite components, engineering services, mission operations,
and space systems. That creates multiple opportunities for long-term growth.
Third, Rocket Lab has built a strong reputation for reliability.
Its Electron rocket has completed numerous successful missions. In the space industry, reliability is everything.
Customers trust companies that consistently deliver.
That trust can become a major competitive advantage.
Fourth, Neutron could completely change the company's future. If it launches successfully, Rocket Lab could compete for much larger and more profitable missions. That would dramatically increase its addressable market.
Finally, the company is led by founder and chief executive officer Peter Beck.
Many investors appreciate founder-led businesses, because founders often think in decades, not just the next quarter.
That long-term vision is one reason investors remain optimistic. But every investment has another side, and ignoring the risks can become very expensive.
11. The bear case. Now let's examine the challenges.
The first risk is execution. Building advanced rockets is incredibly difficult.
Even small delays can affect revenue, increase costs, and disappoint investors. The second challenge is profitability.
Rocket Lab continues investing heavily in research, manufacturing, facilities, and future growth. That is positive for long-term expansion.
But it can also delay consistent profits. Third,
competition remains intense. Large aerospace companies continue investing billions of dollars.
New space companies are also entering the market. Rocket Lab must continue innovating to protect its position.
Another risk is customer concentration. Large government or commercial contracts can have a significant impact on revenue. Winning contracts helps. Losing important contracts can also affect growth.
Finally, the stock itself can be very volatile. Growth stocks often experience large price swings. Sometimes because of company news, sometimes because of broader market sentiment,
sometimes simply because investors become more optimistic or more fearful. That means Rocket Lab may not be suitable for investors who become uncomfortable during periods of volatility.
Smart investors always consider both opportunities and risks before making any decision. 12. Should beginners buy Rocket Lab? If you're new to investing, never buy a stock simply because someone says it could become the next big winner.
Instead, ask yourself 3 simple questions. Do I understand how this company makes money?
Do I believe the global space industry will continue growing over the next 10 years?
Can I remain patient even if the stock experiences significant volatility? If your answer is yes, Rocket Lab may deserve further research.
If your answer is no, you may want to spend more time learning before investing.
Many experienced investors build diversified portfolios.
They combine ETFs, established companies, dividend stocks, and selected growth companies like Rocket Lab. That approach can reduce overall risk,
while still providing exposure to innovative industries.
But there is still one final question, after everything we've discussed. Is Rocket Lab actually worth buying in 2026? Let's answer that now. 13. Final verdict. So, is Rocket Lab stock still worth buying in 2026? Rocket Lab operates in one of the fastest growing industries in the world. Space technology, satellite manufacturing, national defense,
commercial launches, and advanced aerospace engineering.
If these industries continue expanding, Rocket Lab could become one of the biggest long-term growth stories of the next decade.
But investors should also remember, this is still a growth company. Growth companies rarely move in a straight line. There will likely be periods of excitement,
periods of disappointment, and periods when the stock experiences sharp swings.
Patience becomes extremely important. The most successful long-term investors usually focus on business quality,
competitive advantages, financial strength, management execution,
and long-term industry trends. Not daily headlines,
not social media hype, and certainly not short-term market fear.
No one knows exactly where Rocket Lab stock will trade next month,
or even next year, but investors who study businesses carefully,
understand the risks, remain diversified, and think long-term, often make better decisions than those who simply chase the latest trend. If Rocket Lab successfully expands its space systems business, delivers the Neutron rocket, wins more government contracts, and continues growing with the global space economy, the company could look very different by the end of this decade. That is why many long-term investors continue watching it closely. If you enjoyed this analysis, subscribe to Wall Street Pulse. Every week we explore the biggest investment opportunities shaping the future. Artificial intelligence, space technology, quantum computing, fintech, dividend stocks, growth stocks, and the companies changing the world. Before you make your next investment decision, remember this. The biggest winners are not always the companies everyone is talking about. Sometimes the greatest opportunities are still quietly building their future. If you want research-driven investing ideas before they become mainstream, stay with Wall Street Pulse. We'll see you in the next video.